Dead? Suicide? Horseshit. Did you see a body?
Before I get into why I and several others feel that Stormfront is alive, let me first take you back to the ending of Season 2. In the finale, Ryan decimates Stormfront because she was attacking Rebecca and had nearly killed her. Ryan got pissed, and in his first ever blast of heat vision, he cooked Stormfront and turned her into charred kebab. The heated rays also found their way to Becca, who bled to death on the spot, but Stormfront didn't die. You see, it seemed that despite losing 3 of her limbs, Stormfront's body cauterized her limbs in order to save her from excessive bleeding. And that's how the woman managed to survive. And I can totally attribute this to the V1 in her system.
See? I told you I don't break easy.
Now, the theory that's doing rounds all over the internet is that Stormfront is not really dead. I mean, if we're being cautious, we shouldn't bet on it because she pretty much died by suicide in Season 3 of The Boys. In that season, she turned out to be Homelander's crippled keep, and she would still release his, stress despite being all messed up. However, when he declines her lifelong dream of building a white supremacist Nazi army of Supes, she seemingly gives up her hope, bites her tongue, and commits suicide. Homelander later sees her body being taken away in a bag, and one more unfortunate victim later, he goes to her blood-stained hospital bed to rest on. Moreover, Vought presents Stormfront's death as is. Like, Ashley calmly tells the media that Stormfront bit off her own tongue. But this is Vought we're talking about. This company lies so often that even its cover-ups need cover-ups. So, when a Nazi Supe with V1 in her veins dies off-screen with no dead body shown on-screen, no real goodbye, and no proper funeral, I think we're allowed to raise one eyebrow. Now, this version of events is sorta acceptable if we take the show at face value. But the problem is, The Boys rarely wants us to do that. Homelander never actually saw Stormfront's body. The footage he saw had her body completely covered. Vought announced the death almost immediately, and somehow they were honest about the cause, which is very, very suspicious, because honesty from Vought is usually a sign that somebody in PR needs to be checked for a concussion. The whole thing felt too convenient and too off-screen for a character that important. I mean, this is Stormfront we're talking about. This woman's spewed ideology was so vile that even Homelander was taken aback, and we know just how crazy Homelander is. Now, the thing is, Season 5 is adding a lot of fuel to the whole speculation with V1, the original version of Compound V used on Vought's earliest Supes. Stormfront, back when she was Liberty, was one of those early test subjects. And V1 is important because it gives you near immortality. Although that doesn't mean she can't be hurt, it also doesn't mean she would die of natural causes or something as silly as biting off her own tongue. More light on the whole thing was shed by the conversation that Soldier Boy and Homelander had while he was walking through the woods in that not-so-nice father-son bond. When Homelander tells him Stormfront died, Soldier Boy instantly calls it
horseshit
and asks him if Homelander ever saw a body. Now, Soldier Boy knew Stormfront. Or at least he knew her better than he wants to admit. He tries to reduce her to some old fling, and Homelander does the same in his own gross Homelander way. But both men clearly had more emotion around her than they were willing to say out loud. Stormfront may have been the only woman Homelander truly loved in a romantic sense. Like, he didn't want her in the same maternal way like he did Madeline Stillwell or Firecracker. And as for Soldier Boy, his reaction was telling that she meant more to him than a fling. In fact, both men were trying to pull off a macho act in front of each other and didn't wish to show their emotional side as such. Furthermore, Soldier Boy tells Homelander that Stormfront was never the kind of person who would take her own life. And I agree. I mean, I kind of feel like she was partly inspired by Ilsa Koch, or the Witch of Buchenwald, or the Bitch of Buchenwald, a Nazi woman who was accused of selecting prisoners with distinctive tattoos to be murdered so that she could use their skin to create items like lampshades, gloves, and book covers. Having said that, all of this does not automatically mean Stormfront is alive, but it tells us the show wants her name back in the limelight. And that's important, because Aya Cash is also going to reprise her role of Stormfront in the upcoming prequel TV show Vought Rising, which would show us Vought's early days. The whole Soldier Boy and Stormfront's Liberty era in the 1950s. So, even if the main series doesn't bring her back in the present, the franchise clearly has more Stormfront material ahead. Vought Rising was announced as a prequel with Jensen Ackles returning as Soldier Boy and Aya Cash returning as Stormfront or Liberty. So, I believe Stormfront is definitely alive somewhere, and after Homelander meets his dastardly end one way or another, Stormfront would become the next big villain. In fact, I also think that although Vought Rising is billed as a prequel, it would show us both timelines, as in the past and the present. The present after the events of The Boys Season 5. And if you think about it, if Stormfront is alive in the present, the implications could be pretty darn ugly. But let's assume she somehow manages to return in Season 5 itself and manages to play a big role. She has like 3 or 4 episodes to do so. She could join hands with Homelander and Soldier Boy, which would create a truly toxic family dinner from hell. I mean, both men have done her in the past. Homelander already has power and the temperament of the worst man-child imaginable. Soldier Boy has his own history, and Stormfront has her hateful ideology. Put those 3 together and you get the worst possible version of legacy, ego, and old evil dressed in new branding. And because Stormfront had a connection with both men, her return could also divide them. Homelander wants a validation, while Soldier Boy wants respect, even if he's done little to earn it. If Clara becomes the emotional link between them, she could pull them together, or she could turn them against each other with one carefully constructed sentence. There's also the Homelander's mother theory, which is very horrible if you think about it, but it also feels very, very The Boys. The argument is that Vought used Soldier Boy's genetic material to create Homelander, so why would they not use Stormfront's as well? She had V1. She was one of the earliest successful Supes, and Vought has never had a moral boundary it didn't want to cross. The issue is that we don't have proof. We saw Homelander's birth from another woman, so if Stormfront is involved, it would have to be through an egg or some Vought experiment done without her consent. That is possible in this universe, but still only a theory for now. I think the more believable or plausible angle is that Stormfront's possible survival is not really about a cheap twist. It's about what The Boys has repeated numerous times about institutions and figures of authority and power. As Stan Edgar was telling MM, the machinery needs to run. The cogs may change, and the people running the machinery may change, but the machinery can never really be stopped. So yeah, evil doesn't end because one person gets exposed or because they get removed from the boardroom. The evil in The Boys often hides in plain sight. It often changes names. And, like some dormant virus, it waits for a better climate or a more suitable environment to become active and infect everyone. Stormfront already did that once when she transformed her entire identity from Liberty to Stormfront. So if she survived again, it wouldn't be a first. Additionally, The Boys has a bad habit of bringing people back, and they already did that with Queen Maeve once. That's why her return will create a ripple effect that would influence more people and things than just Soldier Boy or Homelander. Stormfront is the oldest poison in Vought's bloodstream, and if she comes back after Homelander is taken down by The Boys, she could totally use Homelander's death to spread more hate against the good guys, against Starlighters. And in a world full of supes, cults, propaganda, and scared people, that may be even more dangerous. So no, I don't know if Stormfront's alive, but if The Boys pulls that card, shit is gonna get really diabolical. So yeah, that's all in this one, folks. If you know us, you know we do a lot of The Boys content and explore some of the wackiest theories and ideas out there. So stick around for more. And if you liked the video, please consider hitting the like and subscribe buttons and ringing that bell icon. Those 3 small clicks from you will help us tremendously in bringing you more of these awesome videos. Stay safe, have a good one, and don't forget to stay marvelous.